breaking, Rep. Ro Khanna. I am demanding the release of the Epstein Files. Rep. Ro Khanna has introducing amendment to demand the full release of the Epstein Files. Now, this is a Democrat who's doing this. Let's play the tape.
Mr. Speaker, I introduce today an amendment demanding the full release of the Epstein Files. The Speaker's Rules Committee should demand a vote tomorrow of every member of Congress. Yes, we should release it, or no, we should not. This is a question of whose side are you on? Are you on the side of protecting the rich and the powerful who've put their thumb on the scales of government to suck out millions of dollars while working class Americans suffer? Or are you on the side of the people? The Attorney General said on her desk was the Epstein file. And now she's saying, no, 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 nothing to see, don't release it. This is a question of trust. We need to release the Epstein Files so we can restore government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And every member of Congress tomorrow should be forced to vote on this amendment.
So here's the conundrum, I suppose. If this does go to a vote, I doubt it. Who do you think votes yes? I don't know that it would be Democrats. Like, this is brilliant by Ro Khanna. Shout out. We do disagree on quite a bit, but he's the best the Democrats have. I want the files released. I don't care if Trump's in them. If Trump's in them, I want them more. How about that? But Rep. Ro Khanna saying this, Democrats are not all going to vote yes on it. Republicans are not going to vote yes on it. So it's not going to go to a floor vote at all. So this is an interesting play that can't be played.
Yeah, and Ro Khanna represents Silicon Valley, and his office is getting a lot of phone calls right now from some pretty rich dudes who are like, hey, remember that contribution you asked for me? How about you shut up about the damn Epstein files? There's a lot of people in Silicon Valley who are probably a little too close to that file who don't want the thing released. So
I want the
Ro
files,
will back down from
I want
this.
the files released, but I also don't know why anyone should trust what we see when they are released.
So that's the issue with all of the Epstein files, though. It really speaks to how no matter what is released, you will never be satisfied unless it really confirms your priors.
I want the government to be turned inside out so we can decide. And this is a step in the right direction.
Ro Khanna's a cynical political clown. He didn't do this during the Biden administration for a reason. It's because he didn't give a shit. He's only cynically using this as a ploy to be the man of the hour. Yeah. Mr. Gaines, who do I sign this check out to?
Just pull that gentleman off the chair and take the chair. It's all yours. Myron made it.
Yeah, I did.
It was a lightning hold, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, man. It was.
I knew it.
Nuts.
I knew it. I used to work in the
Make this
airport.
dude move a puppet after being stuck on a plane. Welcome to IRL. Here's a puppet.
Dude, literally, they said, "Oh, lightning hole." I was like, "Wait, there's no lightning. What's going on here?" So
they got the lights. They flash on top, and that means no ground personnel can go on the ground.
Oh, yeah, dude, we were there for like 2 hours.
Dang.
Absolutely nuts. Actually, it was the Jews that made me late. No,
yeah. Myron, I was going to say, who do I write this check out to?
The weather.
Psyops that you're doing are crazy.
It was
right
a lot
now.
specifically. But we were just talking about Ro Khanna has called for an amendment to be filed and voted on the floor tomorrow in Congress, releasing all the Epstein files.
Good. I mean, that was a huge blunder by the Trump administration, was saying like, oh yeah, nothing to see here, guys, especially when several members of the cabinet were saying like, yeah, we're going to release the files, whether it was Kash Patel, Bongino, J.D. Vance. They'd all said this stuff on podcasts earlier. So it looked really bad for them to just be like, oh yeah, whatever. And then even when Pam Bondi, oh, it's on my desk. Obviously she played it back. She was like, oh, well, I was referring to the entire file. I was referring to JFK and everything else, which, you can get that plausible deniability, but it looked really bad. And then I was listening in on what you guys were saying before with the mayor of LA and the Trender Araguas and everything else. Yeah. The other thing also that could happen, I don't know if they would do this, but since they're labeled a terrorist organization now, you could use the full force of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF, and go after them for material support of terrorism. And the reason why that would be good is because when you use the JTTF, you get a dedicated AUSA. You can go ahead and get DOJ Maine involved. You get an enormous amount of resource when it comes to prosecuting these types of cases, because I've done those national security cases before. And when you involve the JTTF, it becomes a way bigger deal.
They should. As for the Epstein files, there's something, I have an interesting thought on this. It's like, Ro Khanna, I like Ro Khanna. I disagree, but we came on the show, we had a discussion, and I see where he's coming from. I've made this point with a lot of people on immigration. People will always vote to protect themselves, their friends, and their families. So Ro Khanna, being the child of immigrants, is like, I want to protect immigrants. Me, as someone born American And I mean, admittedly, my grandmother, or I'm sorry, my grandmother on my mom's side was an immigrant too, but my family is largely American. So I'm like, I want to maintain the American tradition. So I respect it. That being said, if all the Democrats came out tomorrow and were like, yeah, release it, I'd be like, wait a minute. What are they like? What's their play here? Now, to be fair, okay, right? I'm not going to tell them no, but what is the Democrat motivation if they actually were to vote on it? I don't trust them.
They've got fake files that have all their enemies on it.
Maybe.
You
Yep.
know? You just
For the
can't trust
Democrats,
it.
it's
Or-
just a distraction.
What if? Okay, and I know that the liberals are gonna clip this. Okay, let me just start by saying I'm gonna intersplice my sentences. The Epstein files should be released, and if Trump is on them, good, release them even more. But what if Democrats had, and I think Trump should be releasing these files, fake files that Trump, he should be releasing all the files, left behind so that if Trump or whoever came in and all the Epstein files need to be released, they would stumble upon and go, wait a minute, this is all fake. And then it's like, release it. And then the Democrats say, release it. And you're like, that's a clever play.
Well, let's be honest here, right? So, like, as far as like the client list goes, we already know who a lot of his clients were, right? You know, I've done a show with Ryan Dawson. We talked about this. You know, the thing is that, like, you know, the cool, sexy celebs, we already know who they are. There's a lot of billionaires that no one knows about. The real thing that's interesting is people want to know, who did he work for? Which component of Israeli intelligence did he work for? You know, I think the former prime minister Naftali came out and said, oh, he didn't work for the Mossad or the Israeli government. But, you know, other people were like Winnie Webb say that he worked for Oman, right? The IDF's component. So we'll see. But I think the thing that's most important, Oman, they're basically,
sure?
It's like their DIA. Oman.
So, that's the actual organization. I thought you meant the
It's called
country. I
Oman.
was
Yeah,
like,
no, it starts with an A. A lot of people get, what are you talking about? Yeah, it starts with an A. Yeah, it's like a
That's a
component
weird,
of their
small country
of their
to work
IDF.
We know Epstein
Myron,
was
what-
friends with Ehud Barak, who was the former prime minister.
Yes, he got caught there a million times.
And Bongino himself said on this show, Middle Eastern intelligence, perhaps. And then everybody laughed when he said Middle
Yeah,
Eastern.
we all know which Middle Eastern country that is. Okay, but you know, I think the real thing that people are interested in isn't necessarily like people say the client list. We already know who's going to be on the list. I think the thing people are most interested in is you know, who he was working for, what information he was collecting, why he was collecting, and how he was going about actually doing all this. And I do think it's important for people to realize that when it comes to Epstein, I've talked about this a bunch, and I really want to kind of aware the audience on this. So I used to, for those that don't know, because I'm like new here, I guess, with some of the people, I was a former special agent with Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. So I had a top secret clearance, and I dealt with high side stuff and law enforcement stuff. And the thing with Epstein is obviously there's a criminal case on the human trafficking side, right, with what he did. And then there's also the high side stuff about, you know, what he was doing when it comes to intelligence. Now, the FBI is obviously going to have a file on him for the criminal side, but they're also going to have what we call the high side, which is going to have a file on all the classified stuff. It's important to note that the FBI is only going to have stuff pursuant really more to domestic intelligence gathering that he was doing here. But when it comes to foreign intelligence, that's going to be the CIA. Right? So I do think that, you know, we've been beating up Bongino and Pam Bondi and stuff for their blunders. I get it. Kash Patel, valid criticism. But I do think we need to expand it. If we want everything, we need to bring Tulsi Gabbard in because she's really going to have everything as a DNI because all the intelligence components, the IC community, are going to have slivers of all of this stuff that Epstein was doing based on the fact that he was also working with a foreign government. So the CIA is absolutely going to have a file. NSA is going to have a file. DIA is going to have a file. All these guys. So I do think that we don't just need the FBI stuff. We need the CIA stuff and NSA stuff, everything. Because since we know this guy worked for foreign intelligence, FBI is not going to have everything.
What do you think the reason is for Trump saying nothing to see here, everyone move along?
You know, controversial take. I think a big part of it is to protect Israel. I think that Israel's in a
Is that
very
the controversial part? I feel like that's a less controversial thing.
well, let me tell you why. I think the reason why is because right now Israel is in a very bad political space when it comes to approval, both internationally and the United States. You know, people are being very critical of the country right now. They're in a very sensitive time where I would say the next 2 years is going to dictate the landscape of the Middle East for a very long time. And, you know, they want to attack Iran again. You know, the ceasefire is BS. They're going to absolutely, you know, do another phase of the conflict because for all intents and purposes, I think the United States and Israel lost this conflict. And I can go into...
Can I ask you, what is the what evidence?
Yeah, I think they lost.
What evidence do you have that Mossad, that Jeffrey Epstein worked for Mossad?
Well, I mean, between the former prime minister going to his house as much as he did,
He gave Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, $200 million for research. We don't even know
Bill
what went to.
Clinton worked closely.
Hold up,
with
Elaad.
Sure, they all did.
Elaad,
Yeah.
you can't
So
talk
this
about
isn't
you can't talk
evidence.
about Epstein without talking about Robert Maxwell, who was working with the Mossad as a part of a huge scandal, the Promise scandal in the 90s.
Didn't like Maxwell's father say something about
that's Robert Maxwell. Like
Right,
Ghislaine
absolutely.
Maxwell's dad was embedded with the Mossad, but also the Soviets, also Eastern
Tucker
European.
Carlson's
protected their nuclear
father worked
program.
for the
Robert
CIA.
Maxwell
it's
protected their
crazy.
nuclear
I know,
program.
but this isn't. Again, you guys are like reaching for strings. So Tucker Carlson's father worked for the CIA.
Yeah, and that's also suspicious.
Yes, and is
Okay.
anything,
then what's your argument?
My argument
a
is
second thing was true.
No, my argument is that just because you're the son of somebody, or that you've been seen
but
with
CIA
leaders
is
of a
American.
country.
You
I-
were
No, I
CIA
know.
is America.
Your
So
girl,
Donald Trump was seen with, again, Jeffrey Epstein. So was Bill Clinton.
Donald Trump used to
So
hang out
it-
on Robert Maxwell's boat.
So
like, there's
you
a
could
deep
make the same
connection.
argument that you're making for Jeffrey Epstein working for Mossad, that he worked for CIA because he
Do
was
you think
seen
Saudi
with-
Arabia makes more sense as the Middle Eastern intelligence agency that he was working with?
So I'm going to pull a Charlie Kirk, and I actually believe that the president is handling this properly. And if there was any,
I'm leaving.
he's actually showing it. I think the real issue here, I think a real lesson people could learn is that Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi overpromised and underdelivered. That's the real issue here. And now they're handing it to one another like a hot potato. Pam Bondi brought in all the influencers to make them all look really stupid, and then she said,
right. Yeah, no,
and then
I
she
agree
said-
that was an out.
Wait, let me finish. And
agree
then
that's
she
an
said,
out.
"Oh,
I
gee
agree.
whiz, I didn't get enough info. Wait, let me go ask Kash Patel from the FBI for more stuff,"
right,
because
but
she was
hold
trying
on.
to dump it onto him.
Let me ask for Shannon.
I agree that was an out.
let me ask.
I agree that.
Do you think they kept the files and still had them sitting around, knowing Trump was coming
No.
in? It.
Well, again, I think if we're only going to look at the DOJ and FBI, we're only getting a slice of the pie. I think that this is way bigger, and we need to bring the entire intelligence community in based on the nature of the type of intel he was working.
I don't
just-
think
I'm
Myron
just-
Gaines or
okay,
Shea
okay,
will
okay.
ever be
Okay.
satisfied with
Okay,
whatever
right,
comes
right,
out of these
right.
documents.
Whatever. My point, what I'm saying is,
Or we're not going to get him, is my point.
I don't see. I agree with Elaad that they overpromised and underdelivered.
Sure.
Cash he went on Glenn Beck's show and they said, "Who's got the Epstein's black book?" And he says the FBI does. Absolutely.
The FBI director.
The FBI director. And he says it's directly under the control of the FBI director. But the idea that anyone who could be implicated knew Trump was going to be coming in and had months of advance notice and just sat back and did nothing, they had to have been saying, all right, clear it out, get the files, anything incriminating. And then you have an entire administration making promises that they get in there and they go, we got nothing.
So
You know who's
this
gonna have
answers your
everything?
This answers your question. Why did Ro Khanna introduce this? And this is
Because
why.
no one's going to vote
No,
on it.
no.
political
This is
cudgel.
why. Because now we're not talking about illegal immigration. We're not talking about defunding Planned Parenthood. We're not talking about. We're not talking
bad
about
for Democrats.
We're not talking about. No, but it's bad for America. It's bad for our movement.
No,
we're not
no,
talking
no,
about
no.
all the other things. Because all we're talking about is Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. So this is why
I
Ro
disagree.
Khanna dropped
No
this.
way, no
'Cause
way.
Let's keep talking
The
about Jeffrey
Epstein-
Epstein.
the Epstein-
So all these
no, no.
other battles that where we can fight.
Okay, I get it.
We're not going to
No.
fight them because we're
This-
going to focus on
we get
Jeffrey
it.
Epstein all
I
the
get it.
time. Jeffrey
This
Epstein.
is the best thing that ever happened to Trump.
Jeffrey Epstein.
It's the best thing.
Oh.
It has turned the noise off of all of the other stories onto a story that can't go anywhere. If there's no files and there's no and it's all like, do we really believe they're sitting on a trove of documents being like, we could release it anytime? Come on, anybody implicated knew Trump was going in, that if he could release it, they would have gotten rid of most of the incriminating stuff at the bare minimum. In Trump's first term, everybody in all these liberals in media made the argument that anytime Donald Trump had bad press on one of his policy decisions, he would tweet something unrelated to policy, some cultural issue. So I'm not saying this is why it's happening, but it may be that Trump, one rumor I heard is that he's using the blackmail to force through his agenda. I don't know if I believe that. I think the likelihood is overpromise, underdeliver. And when they get in, it's like, oh, we actually can't deliver on these promises. But more importantly, Trump raiding farms and sending in, ICE agents to people fighting in the streets. There was like a 20-something-year-old woman who fought an ICE agent in Boston or something like that. Yeah. And now the only thing anyone's talking about is this nebulous story, subject to debate, called a conspiracy theory. The last thing Trump wants is a heavy focus of national unrest on his immigration raids.
So that's why he's doing it.
I do think the story is
Maybe, I don't know.
important, and we should not be talking about it, because I think if our foundation of this country is comprised of sexual blackmail, which it has been since the dawn of time, not obviously not this country. But hold up, but like since Hoover took over FBI, we know the mafia was sexually blackmailing him for being with his gay lover in a New York City hotel. This is what the country's been doing. So if our foundation's comprised of that, it's that foundation's got to be destroyed. I don't care what the repercussions are. I don't care who the people in the periphery of the story are.
Wait. What if the repercussions are? And this is, I'm not saying, I know people are getting mad. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying, how would you feel if Ro Khanna's amendment goes through, all Democrats vote on it, and a couple of Republican defectors vote on it, and they get the documents, they're released, and let's just say it's not incriminating for Trump, but it does destroy the strength of the federal government tremendously, and then Democrats mount a resurgence, and we get a communist takeover in 2 years.
Let God sort it out.
If it doesn't
also,
Even if it means communist takeover.
You don't know. That means you're never going to know. You're never going to know.
My point
it will destabilize.
My point is, I don't think it's likely. I'm not saying it will happen.
Right.
But I'm saying, would you regret the decision should communists take over from turmoil?
Lived in New York most of my life. So I'm pretty used to communist takeover.
Right. I guess, like,
yes is the
So,
answer to
yeah,
your
I mean, like,
question.
because I'll
you
fight
would
it.
regret it.
Yes.
I don't know if I would
not
regret it, because if
it
we
leads to
don't, if we
communism.
do not, just we're already in communism. We're talking about Karen Bass. Look, Karen Bass is funding an invasion in
Donald Trump
California.
is president. We are not. We are not.
I had a
communists.
genocidal maniac in New York, Cuomo. And then we have this genocide, this sexual blackmail operation running the country. I'd like to see that come undone.
So
we already have,
I agree.
Mom Donnie, whatever
I
his name is in New
completely
York.
agree.
Like, I don't
Drop
care
him.
what the repercussions are going to be.
This is
Yeah,
why
they got to release it because the people already have very low confidence in the U.S. government. So they need to drop them at this point. Now, here's the thing. I think they need to drop them, but I don't think they are because there's going to be national defense information in there. It's going to not just compromise our national security, but also Israel's. They're in a tumultuous time right now when it comes to getting a hegemony in the Middle East. It's just not going to happen.
Let me add. I agree with you on the Israel thing.
It took them 60 years to give us JFK. Everybody's
think-
dead.
Apparently,
I
they
think
didn't even
okay,
give us JFK.
All right. I think it will cause problems for Israel.
Still not out there.
I think it will cause problems for the CIA, the FBI, the entirety of the U.S. intelligence apparatus.
Yep.
And I think there's going to be several other countries involved in this as well that goes beyond just CIA, Mossad, probably MI6.
100%.
Sure.
So
All the Five
I
Eyes.
think a strong possibility, too, is Trump's hands are effectively tied. Now, we can make the argument, do it anyway, but it may be that Cash, Dan, Pam, Trump, and Blanche, they get in there, and they've got the UK, all the Commonwealth nations, not just Israel, but you've even got Saudi Arabia, and they're like, you do this, and you're cooked. And Trump's like, what do we do, guys?
Well, not just that. Like, keep in mind, like Patel and Bongino, everyone's so focused on FBI. The people that are going to have the real sauce is going to be the CIA and what Tulsi Gabbard has. Because since this guy was collecting information for a foreign government, the FBI's information is going to be limited, right? And I'll be honest with you guys, because I've worked with the FBI. They're a mediocre intelligence gathering agency, okay? They just are. Because so with the FBI, they have to actually operate within the rules to a degree versus these other intel components don't care, right? So like when the CIA is doing a lot of things that they were doing abroad during the war on terror, the FBI left. They didn't want to be involved in a lot of that stuff because it destroys their ability to do prosecutions. Because when we're doing prosecutions versus collecting information, two completely different things. So if we really want to know what was going on, Tulsi Gabbard's going to have everything. She's the real person that's going to have
You think you
everything.
can trust what's there? Because it's been through so many hands over all these years.
You know, honestly, dude, I don't think we're ever going to get the full transparency
Guys.
just because people are alive, the nature of what he was doing, the national defense of not just that it's NDI, but it's going to affect us. It's going to affect Israel. This is a very turbulent time for Israel where they obviously need as much support. If the info came out at this time, it's like the worst time it could ever come out for Israel. So,
I
But do you agree with MI6 as well?
sure, for sure. I wouldn't be. A lot of these
I think-
agencies work together, so I wouldn't be
The
surprised.
Five Eyes Spy Club?
Of course, yeah.
Because you say Israel, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I agree, but let's make sure we mix in the other people. And I agree, they're probably a large
Sure.
component, but the Five Eyes Spy Club is not.
But they're in the
going
most
on
sensitive political climate right now. Is my point. That's why I said
I
Israel. Israel has the most sensitive. They're in the middle of several wars.
Bro, I think I don't. Not that I got you two here. Like, I don't see how Israel survives the political climate right now in the United States over the next 10 years. I think their funding is pulled in 10 years, 20 years maybe.
I think it becomes a partisan issue, but I still think the Republican Party will stay pro-Israel at least for the next.
Did you hear Tucker
20
Carlson
years.
at TPUSA?
Yeah, but I think when you see
was there.
actual elected officials, I think there's a disconnect from social media and in real life and how people vote in Congress.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.